Welcome, guys. It's Scott here from Oak Societies. Today is just going to be a relaxed, chill day with the episode. What I mean is by that is we're gonna get into some feel-good stories of us winning, story of patriots winning, stories of justice coming. The last couple of days have been really quiet since the shootings. Q is still working. Well, not Q, but 8chan is still working to come up. The guys behind that are working relentlessly to get 8chan back online. That's why Q has not posted since the attack on 8chan went down. You guys can catch up on all the information on that in my last video that I posted 2 days ago. So I'm just here, guys, to bring you some cool, interesting stories and some, hopefully, feel-good stories, feel-good feelings at the end. I'm excited. I'm not a big summer guy. August is here, which means football is almost here. I'm a huge football fan. I love fantasy football. And I am a Green Bay Packers fan, even though I do live in New York. All my friends are Giants fans for the most part, but that's all right. I'm just feeling good today, guys, and I want you guys to feel good. I know a lot of people have been upset because Q has been down. They haven't been posting, but it is what it is. Q is planned for things like this. They're 10 steps ahead at all times, and it's just the way it is, guys. And we're going to go from there, and we're going to jump into this cool story here. It's called Scientists Attempting to Open Portal to a Parallel Universe. Could 2019 be the year humans open the first portal to a shadowy dimension which mirrors our own world? Scientists in Oak Ridge National Laboratory in eastern Tennessee hope so and have completed building equipment. They are to test this summer, which may allow us the first glimpse of a parallel universe which could be identical in many ways to our own, with mirror particles, mirror planets, and possibly even mirror life. That is according to Lee Browser, the physicist behind the project, who described the attempt to reveal a hidden shadow world as pretty wacky in an interview with NBC last week. The discovery of a concealed mirror world would sound like science fiction from the Stranger Things series, but has been repeatedly suggested by physicists as a tempting means of explaining anomalous results. However, as of yet, hard evidence such a realm exists has refused to manifest itself. One set of anomalous results, and the ones which inspired the research, date back to the 1990s when particle physicists were measuring the time it took for neutron particles to break down into protons once they were removed from an atom's nucleus. Two separate experiments saw the neutrons broke down at differing rates, instead of decaying and becoming protons at exactly the same rate as was expected. And in one of the three, neutrons were captured by magnetic fields and herded into laboratory bottle traps, and in the other, they were detected by the subsequent appearance of proton particles from a nuclear reactor stream. But the existence of a mirror world offers a credible explanation that there are two separate neutron lifetimes, and it could be that around 1% of neutrons could be crossing the divide between our reality and the mirror world before crossing back and then emitting a detectable proton. So guys, I thought this story was super interesting. Just to let you know, so you guys have some premise for all the videos I put out in the future. Anything that's coming out now about any kind of technology, like this one in particular saying scientists are working on opening a portal. Guys, anything that's out now has been being looked at by military and secret agencies, secret corporate agencies, and a lot of this technology already exists and it's already advanced. I can tell you that right now from the insiders that I've heard. All this technology, especially being able to travel to parallel universes and going through warp fields and wormholes, this stuff, even stargates. There's stargates that exist on this world. There's proof of that. And they're all over the place. And when they mention Stranger Things, if you guys haven't watched the new Stranger Things, I recommend it. It's got so much disclosure in that series. It's really eye-opening, especially with portals going between different dimensions. And of course, Russia's the bad guy, but in this case, it's okay because the time setting of that was, I think it's in the 80s. So tensions with the United States and Russia were existing, So they are the bad guys, and pretty much they act as the deep state, and they're operating right in this town in Ohio. and it's their main underground facility is right underneath the mall. And of course, it's underground. Just most of these things in the real world today, guys, a lot of these programs are all underground, so they can't be seen by satellites. And a lot of the insiders also said the ones that have dissected aliens, they've rebuilt UFOs. All that stuff is done underground for the most part. I've been trying to kill this fucking fly the last day, guys. It's so annoying. So I just want to start out with that and to show you guys. It's cool that this stuff is coming out. I don't know if you can consider this like drip, 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 slow disclosure or not, but it was cool nonetheless. So again, we're gonna be bouncing over the place, guys, different topics. Just to give you guys, if you guys are feeling down, again, Q's not posting, so I want to bring you guys some good stories here. Not that this one in particular is a happy story, but it does coincide with my last episode with, what's it called? MK Ultra, the MK Ultra programs. So this story, guys, this came out, this was 2 years ago, and this is just an example of what I was talking about with those shooters and how that people always ask, why do people just decide to go shoot up a place? And there's a lot of reasons, but honestly, I told you guys my opinion, how I feel about it. A lot of this stuff is mind control programs that take over, they're activated, and they go and commit these acts. Now, this one in particular, this was a woman that was unfortunately victimized and used in sex trafficking as a prostitute. And the story goes is she had a RFID chip implanted in the side of her torso. And she went to the doctors, and the doctors had no idea what she was talking about. They thought, a lot of them thought they were making it up, and little did they know, when they actually went and looked through an x-ray, they found this little chip the size of a grain of rice. So let's take a look at this real quick. In October 2016, a 28-year-old woman walked into a hospital claiming that she had a tracker inside of her body. The doctors were dubious until their x-rays showed a small metallic object only a little bit larger than a grain of rice embedded in the right side of her torso. It was an RFID chip, the kind that would use to tag an animal or a pet. The woman said that her boyfriend had implanted it to force her to comply with prostituting herself for sex and giving him the money. And as we scroll down here, let's see, I should have highlighted it. Here we go. Okay, so yes, just as we were saying before, October 2016, she walked in. The nurses and the doctors were on site were skeptical of her story until they gave her the x-ray. Embedded in the right side of her flank is a small metallic object only a little bit larger than a grain of rice, but it's there. It's unequivocally there. She has a tracker in her, and no one was speaking for like 5 seconds. And in busy ER, that's saying something, the doctor explained. That's really eye-opening, guys, because I don't think people really realize, even today, how big of an operation of sex trafficking is, child sex trafficking, human trafficking is. It's got to be the top crime that no one. It's now coming out because of, the Trump administration and QAnon, but I don't think a lot of people, even in their realities, even think about this stuff. It says right here the doctors couldn't believe it, and they're all silent for 5 seconds. As it turned out, that small metal object was an RFID chip. It's used to tag dogs and cats, and someone had tagged her like an animal, like she was somebody's pet that they owned. It's important to note that the RFID chips aren't like every other tracking device or GPS system. This type of chip that was inside this woman could only have been used to track her if the person tracking her was nearby. This means that she was likely kept in a confined area with her captor as if she truly were a pet who needed to be kept close to her owner. In truth, she was forced into the world of sex trafficking by her boyfriend, who was acting as her pimp. He chipped her to ensure her compliance, forcing her to sell her body for sex, then give him the money. This isn't an unusual practice either, as many industries from prostitution to manufacturing to domestic service will chip their employees. I believe it's Norway, guys, or Norway or Sweden. I think it was 1,000 people, they volunteered to have a chip, a smart chip, I think it was implanted into their hand or somewhere on their forearm. And pretty much this is almost like a smart device, and they use it almost as a key fob to get in and out of doors. They just put their hand up to it, the door opens, and they were even talking about having things like taking money out of an ATM, doing simple electronic things, but again, guys, this is a Pandora's box that I am not a fan of at all when it comes to combining technology with human beings. For me, it's got red flags all over it. But right here it says we'll chip their employees. This stuff's already happening in the world, guys. This isn't new. But obviously, people use it for bad things like human trafficking. Already in use, RFID chips stand to become a common technology. An American company called Applied Digital Solutions developed one the size of a grain of rice, and it's already been approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the fucking FDA, guys. They are terrible. And they did approve it for distribution and implementation. The potential issues regarding microchipping the human race are endless. Would we have any privacy? It's easy to imagine how the elite and the government could use microchips to further control the general population. It is even safe to put inside of our bodies, or would we experience another drastic increase in cancer rates? Plus, if this becomes common practice in the world of human trafficking, would this help to find victims, or would it only help to controlling them? Guys, I want no part of this technology in our society at all, especially with 5G rolling out. These companies are literally installing these 5G antennas in these major cities right now. It's only a matter of time before it's everywhere, and they're not doing studies on these things. And, you know, who knows? Maybe in 30 years, all of us that have our cell phones are going to, God forbid, have cancer, you know, or start developing these weird diseases. And now you're talking about putting chips inside of people that maybe one day probably run off Wi-Fi. So you're literally having that chip implanted into your body, and God knows what kind of havoc it's going to be wreaking on your body. So this stuff is out here, guys. That's why I'm trying to show you. As far as the MK Ultra, if you guys, I think I referred to in my last video, if you haven't seen it, there's an episode on Edge of Wonder where they bring on a special guest, this woman, I don't remember her name, but she is interviewed there, and she talks about how she was also implanted with these devices. She thought she was crazy, but these devices were more advanced because they were telling her to think a certain way, and she had no control over it. She thought she was going crazy until she actually went to a doctor, and they actually extracted, I forget what it's called. They were some kind of nanotechnology, I believe. That's what I think it was. And they pulled this stuff out of her, and she has records and proof of all of it on paper. So that is there. And I just wanted to come back to this, guys, because this stuff is real. The stuff isn't conspiracy theories. This stuff isn't made up. The shooters that happened over the weekend, again, I told you, I think it's mind control programs. They've been around since the 50s and 60s, and they've only gotten more advanced up until now. We're in 2019, guys. So you guys connect the dots. This stuff is real. All right. In other news, I thought this was hilarious. So let's shit on Facebook just for a moment. Facebook denies shadow banning, but receives a patent for shadow banning. I saw this headline. I'm like, what? This came out 6 days ago, and I came across this. Facebook has continually denied that it participates in the practice of shadow banning, a method of blocking a user's posts or comments from everyone except the user who made the post or comment. But a newly granted patent shows that Facebook not only does practice shadow banning, but wants to protect, by patent, the method they do it. Unbelievable. Despite the fact that Facebook executives denied practicing congressional testimony in April, the company was awarded a patent by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office earlier this month for an automated system that would receive a list of prescribed content and block comments containing the prescribed content by reducing the distribution of those comments to other viewing users while continuing to display the blocked content to the commenting user, such that the commenting user is not made aware that his or her comment was blocked. A better definition, again, is shadow banning. And guys, what does this sound like? You guys have seen in my previous videos. YouTube especially, Google, Facebook, all of them are doing it. They're all doing this thing where they say, oh, well, we're going to crack down on what we call hate speech. Hate speech. And they have also lumped conspiracy theories into hate speech, and anything that contains any kind of fucking truth. They just tie it up into hate speech because it doesn't agree with their liberal agenda. That is the truth. That is what's going on. And the fact that, you know, you have these executives from Facebook, Zuckerberg, the Indian guy for Google, when they go into Congress, they completely lie. And when they're in front of Trump and behind closed door meetings, it's always the same fucking story. They were so nice to us. They claim that these practices are happening. The algorithms are controlled. They're monitored by humans. And, you know, this stuff isn't happening. It's not real. You guys can go on a Google search right now and find out that that's bullshit. You can absolutely see the political agenda within the searches. Google was not like this. Being a millennial that was around for the beginning of the internet at the turn of the century in 2000, the internet was the wild, wild west. It was not like this. You know, it was not politically biased at all until the recent years, and it's getting worse. But it says right here, the John Birch Society, let's see. After all, Facebook recently slapped down a post by this magazine's parent organization, the John Birch Society, as hate speech. That post consisted of the cover of the July issue of the print edition of the New American. That cover showed a real picture of an illegal border crossing and carried the caption, "Immigration Invasion." So guys, you post any kind of truth, anything that goes against the Democratic liberal agenda, Facebook is shadow banning. I have personally been shadow banned by Twitter. I'm not sure about YouTube yet because my channel is still small, but it's growing. We're at 173, by the way, guys. My goal by the end of this month is 200. We're going to crush that. But I've been shadow banned on Twitter. I've had comments blocked. I've had my content blocked. Anything related to the Clintons, usually. I can see how far my posts reach. And anything when it comes to real heavy stuff, I get 7 people. But if I post really anything unrelated to like conspiracy theories, anything like that, it's seen by hundreds. I don't know. Maybe it's the time that I'm posting, but I highly doubt that. I highly doubt it. So I wanted to show you guys that. Thought that was really cool. So another story that we're going to be making you guys feel better about the whole situation going on right now. This is on the Washington Examiner. Now this is funny. None of the mainstream media touched this story, and this is huge. Judge dismisses DNC hacking lawsuit against Trump campaign, WikiLeaks, and Russia. Whoa! Like, this came out on the 31st. I just came across this now. Actually, a couple days ago. And I was saving it for a video. And nobody was covering this except for alternative media. And that was it. A federal judge dismissed a lawsuit brought by the Democratic Party against President Trump's campaign, which alleged a conspiracy with Russia to disrupt the 2016 presidential campaign because no one on the campaign was involved in stealing material from the Democratic National Committee. In an 81-page opinion Tuesday, U.S. District Judge John Colt, I think that's how you say it, I'm going to say Colt, in New York said the actions by the Trump team, including specific individuals named in the lawsuit, were protected by the First Amendment. And as well, WikiLeaks, which was also named in the lawsuit, was additionally determined to be protected by the First Amendment because the organization did not steal the documents and only disseminated material that was in the public interest. That is fucking common sense, guys, but you know, Democrats trying to bring the House down on anything on Trump. And while Colt said the Russian government was undoubtedly involved in the hacking of the DNC servers, he noted federal law prohibits lawsuits against foreign governments, with few exceptions that were not present in this case. In sum, the DNC does not allege any facts to show plausibility that any of the defendants other than the Russian Federation had any role in hacking the DNC's computers or stealing its information. And the DNC does not dispute that the documents were of public importance. Therefore, the First Amendment protects the publication of those stolen documents. And Robert Mueller, let's see. The decision comes after Special Counsel Robert Mueller completed his investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election, which was unable to establish criminal conspiracy between the Trump campaign and Russia. The U.S. Intelligence Committee has determined that Russian intelligence used WikiLeaks to disseminate stolen material from Democrats, including the DNC and Hillary Clinton's campaign chairman, John Podesta. And he is an evil one, guys. Mr. Old Skippy there. Mr. Skippy John Podesta. What a fucking scumbag. And just a few more excerpts here, guys. And it says Colt said that although the DNC had twice resubmitted its complaint since the lawsuit was filed in the spring of 2018, fundamental defects remain, and they had no reason to believe a fourth attempt would turn up a different result. Again, guys, you know, Democratic Party brought Mueller up, 3 times to get absolutely nothing, and it made it worse and worse and worse for them, to absolutely terrible. And guys, this is what I really thought was interesting. Trump celebrated the news on Twitter, emphasizing how Colt was a Bill Clinton appointee judge. He also aired, and quoting Colt's opinion, Trump tweeted, "The judge said the DNC case was entirely divorced from the facts, but Colt's statement was more narrow, referring only to the DNC's argument that defendants other than Russia should be held liable for aiding and abetting the publication of the stolen documents." Guys, that is huge. So you have a judge here that was appointed by Bill Clinton that's actually siding with Trump on all of this, including WikiLeaks, guys. Now, most of you probably already know Julian Assange. He's the guy, I believe he was head of the WikiLeaks. I don't know if he's the founder. I have to double check those. You guys probably know already, but when people were saying we need to free Julian Assange, I don't know if he's in the country yet or he's still held outside the country. I don't know at this point. I can easily probably just look it up, but it's not the point. My whole point is, if he already is in America, people are saying he's going to be treated poorly. He is just, things aren't going to be good for Assange, right? My opinion on all of it, including with Assange and WikiLeaks, it's the complete opposite. I believe Assange has dirt on the deep state that no one else has. And now that the whole Russian collusion bullshit is officially ended, it has been ended for a while. The Robert Mueller case was a complete distraction, a complete farce. The man didn't even fucking write the report himself. It was very obvious from his when he got in front of Congress for his testimony. And I believe that Assange is going to be held in the back pocket, maybe as a trump card, to really hammer the deep state. And I hope it's soon, guys. I really hope it's soon. A lot of us, we've been waiting a while for, we don't want to see any more shootings, and we know the shootings that are happening only benefit one party. It's the Democrats and the liberals. And it's super obvious what happens. They try to shift consciousness and all that stuff. We already went over that in the last episode, but this should make you guys feel good. This is good news. This was good news. This was not reported on at all. So let's shit on New York Times a little bit here, guys. This one made me feel real good. New York Times changes Trump headline to appease far-left extremists. The far-left New York Times caved to the leftist Twitter mob with a major switch in headlines between its first and second editions. The first print edition's headline read, "Trump urges unity versus racism." This was the New York Times, guys. Now, things are getting so heated right now with the mainstream media because the truth is slow. It's been coming and coming and coming. And the evil mainstream media is beginning to they're starting to report more on the truth because they have no choice. They have absolutely no choice. So this was their first headline, right? Trump urges unity versus racism. And what does the New York Times, Washington Post, what all these guys do? They promote that Trump's a racist, right? So the one time that I've seen here, Trump urges unity, the left had a shit fit, right? But after the blue checkmark mafia freaked out, the Times caved with a late edition headline that reads, "Assailing hate but not guns." New York Times print editor Tom Jolly tweeted out the original edition. There it is, guys. Trump urges unity versus racism. And what do they do? Within an hour, though, the Times had caved to the left's demand that President Trump never, ever, ever receive even a neutral headline. Assailing hate but not guns. The fucking enemy of the fucking people, guys. This is what this is. After the original edition was revealed that even though we are constantly told that criticizing the media is a form of violence, the Times was assaulted through social media by all the usual suspects. Miranda Yver says, "Are you fucking kidding me, New York Times?" Glenn Martin, "How many times have I said the New York Times is a fucking rag?" And because there is no appeasing the left as of this writing, hashtag cancel NYT is still trending on Twitter and still filled with angry and deeply unhappy Trump haters threatening to either cancel their New York Times subscriptions or bragging that they already have. And it's just more screenshots, guys, of people that are so upset, they're so brainwashed that even the shitty New York Times put a neutral headline out. What happens? The left cries and cries and cries. And it's just so good. It's so good. And at the bottom of this article it says, "This all proves three things we already knew. The left is totally fine with threatening and attacking the media if those attacks come from the left. The New York Times is not an independent news organization with principles and integrity. Rather, its business model is comfort food for leftists a business model it's not willing to risk under any circumstance. And 3, these bitter blue on the blue battles are a thing of beauty. And that is absolutely correct, guys, because when this change happened, you should have seen Twitter. Oh my gosh, they were attacking each other. As far as Democrats, liberals, they just imploded on each other because they could not believe that their precious New York Times actually gave some kind of truth, even a smidge of truth, and they demanded to change it, or we're gonna cancel our subscriptions. It's just funny, guys. It's the signs of the times. That's what we're dealing with. People are that brainwashed where they get that upset. But, it's happening. It's all happening. And it happened with CNN too, with another article. I don't know if I can bring it up really quick. I might have screenshotted this. Let me see. Hold on. Okay, guys. I think the article was on my Twitter. I'm not going to go crazy trying to find it right now. It doesn't matter. Let's move on to the last 2 stories here, which I thought were really interesting. Boy Scouts of America has pedophile epidemic according to new lawsuit. A new lawsuit filed on Monday in Philadelphia by a group of lawyers against the Boy Scouts of America claims the organization continues to hide a pedophilia epidemic, NBC News reported. The suit filed on behalf of a Pennsylvania man identified as SD alleges he was assaulted 100 times over a period of 4 or 5 years, starting with SD was only a 13-year-old by a scoutmaster at his troop in Pennsylvania in the 1970s. The teen alleges he had to endure fondling, hundreds of instances of oral sexual assault, and repeated attempts of anal penetration at Camp Acalia, a Boy Scout retreat, and his abusers at home. The lawsuit states the abuse would not have been possible had it not been for negligence of the Boy Scouts of America, the lawsuit alleges. The suit goes on to say the organization and other defendants engaged in reckless conduct by failing to protect the young man being preyed upon within the organization's ranks. And right here it says you can't look at these files and not come to the conclusion that this was a massive problem that was hidden, attorney Tim Kosnoff said at a press conference. Another 800 other clients are ready to sue the organization, the group said at a press conference in Washington, D.C. The lawsuit comes as the BSA has been hit with a series of lawsuits by former scouts who say they were assaulted in their time, prompting rumors the nonprofit organization was considering filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protections. The BSA has taken, and it's just some BS quote that the Boy Scouts of America said they've taken considerable steps to protect their troops. Blah, 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 blah. So guys, again, more pedophilia coming out in more organizations. I myself, I was in Cub Scouts, and we were a very local group, so everyone really knew each other, even the Scoutmasters and stuff like that. It's a great thing. It taught me a lot. Probably wouldn't put my son in it nowadays. Things were different, but I mean, this guy said this was happening in the 1970s. So, again, more people coming out saying these things are happening. The organization's covering it up. Now there's lawsuits coming. Going to bring this stuff to light. Just like Epstein. Just like Epstein. And speaking of Epstein, more good news. Florida governor orders state criminal probe into Jeffrey Epstein case. And this is in regards to when he got arrested in 2008, guys. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has ordered a state criminal probe into the actions of the Palm Beach sheriff and the former Palm Beach state attorney for their handling of the Jeffrey Epstein underage sex trafficking case. DeSantis' move comes as Sheriff Rick Bradshaw has come under increasing scrutiny for his decision in 2008 to give Epstein, a politically connected multimillionaire, unusually lenient work release privileges, even though Epstein was a convicted sex offender who had been accused of molesting dozens of underage girls. State Senator Lauren Book, a Democrat from Plantation, collected more than 4,000 signatures on a petition demanding that the Republican governor ask the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to undertake the investigation. Ultimately, it was Bradshaw who requested the inquiry, although only several days of mounting pressure. We got support for this from all over the country, Book said Tuesday. Many of them are sexual assault survivors who have lived in the shadows for so long and who wanted to let Jeffrey Epstein survivors know that they are not alone. And this is the douchebag right here. The case was transferred to the FBI, which discovered even more victims, and federal investigators gathered enough corroborating evidence to fill a 53-page federal indictment. The indictment, however, was inexplicably shelved under the then U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta, who signed off an agreement that allowed Epstein to plead guilty to lesser charges in state court. And guys, we know that lesser charge was soliciting an underage prostitute. That was it. Not the numerous girls that he also molested. Just the one. And he was released outside this jail 12 hours a day, I believe. Free to do whatever, he wanted. Then he would have to come back to the jail to go to sleep. That's out there. Those are facts. Really harsh punishment, right? In November, the Miami Herald published a multi-part series of articles, Perversion of Justice, that raised new questions about the case. Federal prosecutors credited the investigation when they announced Epstein's arrest earlier last month. Days later, Acosta, who had become president, Donald Trump's Secretary of Labor, resigned his post amid a rising chorus of criticism. Bradshaw has been under fire for his approval of the work release program over objections from the lead federal prosecutor who handled the case, Maria Filavana, who worked on Acosta's staff. Bradshaw ordered an internal affairs investigation into the work release last month and announced he would conduct his own criminal probe. So guys, more good news right there. Anybody that's related to Epstein at all who has even helped him just a smidge is now being investigated. Awesome news. Hopefully the truth will come out, and some of these victims, maybe they'll get some emotional relief from finding out who else was helping Epstein, who else was getting maybe some money paid off to them by these officers, these local sheriff departments. Did they help with anything else? Are they a part of any of this under this pedophilia stuff? Why are they trying to hide it is the big question, right? So guys, that is all I have today. Nothing earth-shattering, nothing groundbreaking, but that's okay. Not every day is like that, thank God. Just some feel-good stories. Some of the mainstream news shitting on themselves, which is always fantastic. More investigations that Epstein are coming. He's still in prison. Again, his court case is not going to be until June of next year, which is terrible. Some cool, cool portal stuff, some mind control stuff, and good things like that. So that's going to be it for me tonight, guys. I enjoy doing this. We are doing awesome as far as subscribers and viewership. Everything is going up, and I cannot be more happy. As this channel grows, I'm going to be building a store, a marketplace to sell merchandise. I'm still working on Patreon, which is that subscription base, which can be $1 a month, which I'm going to be doing. I have one set up. I just have to set up the tiers. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with that yet, but that'll be greatly appreciated to start getting some income on this. Because as much as I love doing this for free, it would be great to make some money. And again, any money that's made for this would go directly back to the channel to provide better content for you guys. And that's what all this is about. Getting the truth out there, disseminating this shit information from the mainstream media, and waking people up. So that's all I got for you guys. 8chan is working relentlessly on getting their boards back up so Q can post. And until then, we wait and see what happens. And stay woke.